Two motorcycles both carry the Pan-European name, but only one is quietly draining bank accounts at a rate that should terrify any rider. In 2026, the ST1100 can be found for half the price of an ST1300, and yet the real cost of ownership hides in the risk of sudden, wallet-crushing failures, like $2,000 for charging repairs, or final drives that spike 50% overnight. The question isn't just which bike is cheaper to buy, but which one is poised to blindside you financially without warning. What the numbers reveal might overturn everything you assume about value and risk. So which Pan-European is the real budget breaker? January 2026 brings a stark reality for anyone browsing the used market for a Pan-European. The ST1100 is now a certified classic, and it routinely appears in listings with asking prices between $3,000 and $6,000. These figures hold steady across most condition bands, whether the bike has 50,000 miles or is approaching 100,000 miles on the odometer. Scarcity is creeping in, but the stabilized prices reflect a model whose depreciation curve has already flattened. Sellers often highlight extensive service records, recent timing belt changes, and a history of long-haul reliability, aiming to justify the upper end of that range. By contrast, the ST1300 occupies a much broader and more volatile price band. In the UK, listings start at £2,500 for early higher mileage examples and climb to nearly £9,000 for late model, low mileage bikes in pristine condition. United States prices typically range from $5,000 to $10,000, with occasional bargains surfacing. For example, a 2006 model with just 25,000 miles was recently listed well below the average, drawing immediate attention from forum regulars. The factors driving these prices are clear. Buyers pay a premium for documented maintenance, unblemished fairings, and above all, evidence that the notorious stator has either been replaced or tested. Live ads in January 2026 reveal the practical realities for buyers. The ST1100 is now a specialist market where patience and scrutiny pay off. The ST1300, while offering more choice, demands a careful eye to avoid bikes that are hiding expensive repairs beneath a glossy exterior. These listings do not just set expectations, they serve as the first checkpoint in the long-term cost journey. Depreciation tells its own story when comparing the ST1100 and ST1300. The ST1100, having ended production in 2002, has reached a point where its value barely budges year to year. After an initial slide in the early 2000s, prices settled into a narrow band, as classic status and limited supply now keep them steady. Owners who bought a decade ago often find their bikes worth nearly as much today, sometimes more, when maintenance records are immaculate or mileage is unusually low. This stability means the financial risk of further value loss is minimal, and for some, the prospect of modest appreciation is real. The ST1300, on the other hand, is still riding out the tail end of its depreciation curve. It was discontinued in 2018, and it faces the classic used bike squeeze. It is newer than the ST1100, but not new enough to escape the downward pull, as buyers seek the latest features elsewhere. Since 2018, prices have dropped sharply, especially for higher mileage or cosmetically worn examples. Even well-kept bikes aren't immune, with values tracking lower each year as the market adjusts to changing tastes and the arrival of newer competitors. Owners who bought at the top of the curve have watched thousands evaporate from their investment. For anyone weighing the two models, the numbers reveal a hidden risk. The ST1300's broader price range is not just about choice, it is a warning that the slide may not be over. In contrast, the ST1100's plateau offers a rare pocket of predictability in a market that usually punishes older bikes. Entry price is just the beginning. The real story is how much value remains after the initial thrill fades. Routine ownership costs for both the ST1100 and ST1300 form the backbone of any long-term budget. Annual maintenance, including oil changes, fluids, valve checks, and minor adjustments, typically falls between $800 and $1,200 for either bike in 2026. Consumables like tires and brakes add another layer. A set of sport touring tires now runs $400 to $600, with many owners expecting to replace them every 8,000 to 10,000 miles, depending on riding style and load. Brake pads and discs, though less frequent, bring a bill of $300 to $500 for a full set, with the ST1300's linked system adding complexity and sometimes extra labor hours at the shop. Fuel economy differences are subtle but persistent. The ST1100 averages about 45 miles per gallon, while the ST1300 edges ahead at 48 miles per gallon, thanks to fuel injection and a slightly leaner tune. Over a year of regular touring, that margin can translate to real savings at the pump, especially for high-mileage riders. Both bikes boast large tanks, enough for 300 miles between fill-ups, so range anxiety rarely enters the equation. Insurance premiums, however, reveal a distinct divide. Quotes from several brokers in 2026 show the ST1300 typically commands 10 to 20% higher premiums compared to the ST1100. Underwriters factor in the ST1300's greater complexity and a higher incidence of electrical claims, particularly related to charging system repairs. An experienced broker says the ST1300's reputation for stator issues means we rate it higher risk, even if most owners never see a problem. For most policyholders, that means budgeting $400 to $600 per year for the ST1100 and $450 to $720 per year for the ST1300, with variables like age, location, and riding record playing their usual roles. A single component failure can turn a reliable tourer into a financial headache overnight. On the ST1300, the charging system is the weak link. The stator hidden beneath the right engine cover is responsible for producing up to 742 watts to power lights, electronics, and heated gear. When it fails, the warning comes as a flickering dash or a dead battery far from home. Replacement isn't cheap. A new stator can run $1,000 to $2,000 by the time parts and labor are tallied, especially if the regulator or wiring harness is damaged too. Aftermarket options promise savings, but owners report mixed results. A few $100s less upfront, but questionable longevity, with some failing again within a year. Forum regulars warn that cheap eBay stators are a gamble best avoided. The ST1100 tells a different story. Its shaft-driven final drive is legendary for longevity, but only if those 3 tiny O-rings and a smear of moly paste are kept in check. Neglect them, and grit will eat away at the gears, leading to catastrophic wear. When that happens, sourcing a replacement rear drive in 2026 means scouring salvage yards or paying a premium, $150 to $300 for a used assembly, but as high as $800 for a rare low-mileage unit. A full rebuild with new gears and seals can easily top $1,500 after labor. Parts scarcity is real. From 2021 to 2023, the supply crunch pushed prices up by 50%, and some components now show backordered or discontinued status at major suppliers. Mechanics who know these bikes best say it plainly. A stator or final drive failure isn't just an inconvenience. It is a wallet shock. Owners who skip preventative checks or settle for the cheapest fix often pay double in the long run. Invoices for these repairs are passed around in online groups like cautionary tales, each one a reminder that even the most reliable tourers have expensive secrets lurking beneath the surface. A seasoned mechanic starts every inspection with a multimeter. For the ST1300, charging voltage is checked at the battery terminals. 13.8 to 14.6 volts under load is the target. Anything less, and the stator or regulator could be on the way out. Owners share photos of receipts, $850 for a stator swap at a reputable shop, $300 in parts, and the rest in labor. For the ST1100, the drill is different. With the rear wheel off, a careful look at the final drive spleens in the 3 O-rings tells the story. Any sign of dry moly paste or grit means trouble ahead. One owner's invoice shows $210 for a used final drive assembly, plus $400 in labor after a failed O-ring went unnoticed. These are not horror stories. They are caution flags. A buyer's checklist grows: voltage test for the ST1300, drain plug and O-ring inspection for the ST1100, and real bills to back up any claims. 3-year ownership costs tell a clear story. For an ST1100 bought at $6,000 and sold at $5,500, total outlay after routine maintenance, fuel, and insurance lands near $4,100. Stretch that to 5 years, and the sum rises to about $7,000. The ST1300, starting at $8,000 and reselling at $6,500, carries a 3-year bill of roughly $6,000, or $10,500 across 5 years, an extra $3,500 over its predecessor. These totals include typical running costs, but the ST1300's higher risk of major electrical repairs and steeper insurance premiums push its numbers higher. For anyone hoping to avoid an unexpected budget blowout, the ST1100 stands out as the safer financial bet. In 2026, the ST1300 demands deeper pockets and a stronger appetite for risk. In 2026, every used pan-European is a financial crossroads, where parts scarcity and aging tech collide with nostalgia and practicality. As supply chains tighten and classic status rises, the real cost is choosing what matters more: confidence in the ride or certainty in your wallet. What is your call?